I want to talk about ADHD the way it actually lives, not in a diagnostic manual, not in a clinical handout, but in real life, in your house on a random Tuesday afternoon when homework should have started 45 minutes ago. Because the way most people understand ADHD, and I say this having worked with hundreds of families, including my own, is not quite right. And the misunderstanding is costing kids something very real. ADHD stands for Attention Deficit Hyperactivity Disorder, but that name is actually a little misleading. It's not really a deficit of attention. It is an inconsistency of attention. A child with ADHD can be focused hyper so on something they love for 3 or more hours straight. But the same child cannot sustain attention on something that does not engage them sometimes for even 5 minutes. That is not a choice. That is a brain wiring. The most accurate way I have found to understand ADHD is this. It is fundamentally an executive functioning disorder. That is the frame that actually helps parents and teachers. Because when you understand what executive functioning is and what specific skills are affected, the behavior starts to make sense in a completely different way. The executive functioning skills most impacted by ADHD are time management, working memory, task initiation, impulse and self-control, emotional regulation, and flexible thinking. That is why the ADHD child loses track of time, not because they are ignoring the clock, but because their brain processes time differently. It's why they forget to turn in work that they actually completed. Working memory is the system that holds that information in place long enough to act on it, and in an ADHD brain, things often fall out. It's why starting a task can feel impossible, even when they genuinely want to do it. Task initiation is a small but huge separate skill, and it must be built. The most damaging misunderstanding is this, that ADHD is a motivation problem or a behavior problem. That if a child just tried harder, cared more, or had better parents setting better limits, the problem would go away. I've sat across from kids who have been told their whole lives that they are lazy. Maybe smart, but definitely lazy. Capable, but unmotivated. And I want to be very clear about something. These kids are not lazy. They are exhausted. Exhausted from trying to do something that their brain is not yet wired to do without support. The strategies that come from the motivation misunderstanding are things like take away privileges until the homework is done, remove everything until they earn it back, make the consequence bad enough that they will finally choose to do what needs to be done. And parents and teachers try these things because they make sense if behavior is the issue, but they do not work when skill is the issue, and they do very specific harm to the child's sense of self-esteem and just who they are as a person. I want to desperately change that because these children grow into adults and yet they carry that false narrative into adulthood. So what actually works is building skills, scaffolding the environments that make those skills easier to use, teaching time management, not punishing time blindness, building working memory habits into routines rather than expecting the brain to hold it all on its own, breaking tasks into pieces that make initiation possible. And one of the most powerful things you can say to an ADHD child is this: your brain works differently, not less. Let's figure out together how it works best. It's a simple phrase. When you mean it, when you build everything else around it, that changes the whole trajectory. Listen, ADHD is not a character flaw. It's not a parenting failure. It is not a choice. It is a neurological profile that responds beautifully to the right kind of support. And that support starts with understanding What is actually going on? That is what we are building here. Real skills, real life, real change. I'm Ashley, and I'll see you next week.